Welcome to Desperate Pace. I'm James.
And I'm Mike.
And today we've got Lylyth, Reckoning of Everblight, versus Zevanna Agha, the Fate Keeper. So, two battle engine casters duking it out. I was pretty stoked to see both of them on the field. How about you?
I've been dying to get Lylyth on the table ever since I got that model. With the new theme changes, I've been really excited to try it out, and with Children of the Dragon, I'm really excited to see more Lylyth 3 on the table, hopefully.
Yeah, it's interesting watching all the various casters come out of the woodwork, things that you could never actually use because Combined Arms was dead in a ditch somewhere.
Right.
Awesome. So before we start, I just want to cover on a few things. You'll notice in this episode the video quality is a little bit different. We're working on increasing the production value of Desperate Pace, and part of that is that we purchased a new camera. So we're
new mics.
Yeah, and new mics. And this is all based on critiques and recommendations from you, the audience. With this one, we're still zeroing in on the proper settings for the video. So if you have any comments or suggestions, like any constructive feedback on how we can be doing this better, we would love to hear from you. With that, a little bit of extra context to the game. Why don't you describe?
Well, so we had quite the day before we had an early morning. It was the end of the Journeyman League, and had a 3-round tournament leading up to this. And so we were recording in the evening and both a little drained with these games. So, still good games. Definitely good games.
Yeah, but it was definitely sort of a marathon Warmachine day.
Absolutely.
You get to view the capstone of that. As a brief aside, we just want to give a shout out to Chris, who is named the Chain Attack Community Builder for that week after finishing up a really successful Journeyman League. He did a great job getting in some new and returning players into that league and keeping people interested and invested with good feedback and linking people up with other people who have experience with the factions and everything.
Really going above and beyond, I'd say, just meeting up and hosting games at his house, and it was awesome. Yeah.
Playing games against him with a baby strapped to him is that's dedication.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So yeah, congrats to him. It was a great Journeyman League, and I'm excited to see what other events come out of the Chicago dojo. So let's jump into the list here.
Absolutely. So I was running Lylyth 3, the Reckoning of the Everblight, with a battle group of Azrael, Typhon, Nephilim Bolt Thrower. You have to have your 3 Nyss Shepherds. I have a Gobber Chef for some Fury management, being Fury 5, that's always important. Unit of Incubi, Craelix, Sorceress and Hellion, one with Annyssa to help support the unit of Raptors, Ice Witches, and a min unit of Hex Hunters with, of course, Bayal.
The Hound of Everblight.
The Hound.
So, Harrying the Hound was Zevanna Agha, the Fate Keeper. You may know her as Old Witch 3 or Old Witch 2, depending on what army she's in. With her is her trusty sidekick Baron Tonguelick, Clockatrice, 2 Crabbits, Skin and Moans, a Hound, and a second Clockatrice.
Because why just stop at 1?
Yeah,
Why? Why, James?
Double down
Why?
on goodness. Crazy clocks.
God.
Rock out with your clock out. So then we've also got Graveghoul, Trapperkin, Caskimp, which is 2 of them for 1. 2 Malady Man units, a Hollow Man unit with a Lantern Man and Hollow Holden, unit of Nayslayers with the Nayslayer Warhorse, and a unit of Madcaps. So, in this matchup, we were playing on the invasion scenario, which is 2 circles on the sides, rectangle zone right in the middle, with 2 objectives on either side of the rectangle. This one is pretty grindy scenario. It's one in which you have to...
I like this one a lot, actually. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Not a fan of bunker, but I like invasion. It is grindy, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's grindy in the way that you actually have to put things in the middle. You're fighting back and forth. You actually get to start messing things up. Bunker, it feels prolonged.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Yep.
I always feel like I'm enduring a bunker game.
Instead of playing it?
Yeah, just it. Like...
Well, a lot of it depends on the terrain of the field, too. Which, by the way, the terrain in this game, we have a wall starting at the top at 12 o'clock, followed going clockwise. We have water, acid, a forest, rubble, and a trench with a obstacle in the middle.
Yeah, it may look like rubble in the middle, but it is definitely an obstruction. Yeah.
Hey, really quick, before we get into the game, could you walk me through your long thought out process for creating this list?
Yeah. So we got back from the tournament and we had already played minions in Desperate Pace, and we've already played Crix in Desperate Pace, and so the last army I needed to play was Grimkin. So I made this list about...
In 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Just a slight variant on what I used to play. I wanted to get some Hollow Men out there, see if I can't get a Skin and Moans with a few Clockatrices and bump. It seemed fun, but not very well thought out. I think could use work. I don't think it did too poorly, though.
No, I think it did fine. I thought it did really good.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm having a lot of fun right now just throwing random lists on the table and seeing what happens, because I'm actually surprised by some of the things you can get away with now, kind of being free from the shackles of for every 25 points.
Right.
Without further ado, should we get into the video?
Let's do it.
Okay, so here we are deploying. As usual, Zevanna Agha is going to be in the middle, flanked by a Clockatrice. Then Skin and Moans. Going to shift everything down. So the Clockatrices I like to put in front of the rough terrain because they can just fly over it. Even acid pools are not affected unless they end their movement in the acid pool. So that's not much of a hindrance to them. Here I am asking Mike about some of the capabilities of Lylyth 3, as I have not played against her in a year and a half, 2 years?
Year and a half, yeah. About that.
So now we're calling an audible at the line. We place our little nayslayers down there, so they're going to enjoy the relatively large gap between the 2 pieces of rough terrain. This is going to allow them to stay a little bit more center and wind up where they need to be, but also force a little bit more deployment to the bottom side of the board. Warhorse behind, then we've got the 2 Crabbits flanking the Warhorse. Now we start deploying the Hollow Men. Hollow Men are going to be on the right side. There's a wall there, which is going to help with the 2 UAs of the Hollow Men. They have an ability that at the beginning of the turn, you either get Repo or Weaken. Both of those things are really, really, really useful in an open field. Just smacking Old Witch. And then we've got Malady Man on both sides. We're going to put the Gorehound on the bottom flank there. It's going to threaten through the forest. Looking back, I probably should have put it central for the obstruction since it has Ghostly, but, you know, I'm not a smart man. And here we are shifting a little bit down just so we can get the Grave Ghoul a little further up. And passing clock to you.
All right. So I kind of made the mistake of going into this deployment with a fixed deployment in my head and just not reactively deploying to how you did. I mean, one of the main benefits of going second is you can look how your opponent deployed. So in my mind, I was like, all right, I want to use these Raptors to kind of surround Lylyth, and then try and abuse the Tactician and the fact that Lylyth can trample through them and then come back. So I kind of put everything over on that left flank with the Raptors and Lylyth. My main thought was that in the red circular zone, there's a forest. So I can put those Hex Hunters down there and they can get stealth and from their Prowl ability. And I'm fairly confident that a unit of Hex Hunters and a unit of Incubi can hold that flank pretty well. So I kind of try and put everything more center, kind of more towards the top of the blue zone there. So I have my Azrael and Typhon more middle. Actually, looking now, I do put them kind of more towards the bottom zone, but have them there to support wherever they need to be. Thought is having them central allows them to be more flexible. With her battle host ability, being able to give them that +2 speed to kind of get where they need to be is one of the main thoughts. Now you can see I'm putting down my ice switches, trying to jam them in the front. I have Craelix all the way up at the top there. I have the Sorceress and Hellion to kind of add a little bit more anti-shooting to the list right there in the middle. And Craelix goes up top by the Raptors there. And then I believe I flip it over to you.
For my beautiful AD, which is going to be the Caskimps and the Trapperkin, and the Madcaps. So we've got the Trapperkin deploying pretty centrally. The idea being that anything that comes through between the forest and the obstruction, I can sort of come out from my trapdoor and, get them. Then we've got the Madcaps lining up so they're within 3 inches of the UA for the Nayslayers. So I'll describe that interaction in the beginning of the turn. And then we're going to do the Caskimps pretty far forward, both on each side. And my guess is he's going to be deploying the Hex Hunters towards the bottom, so they'll threaten the high def Hex Hunters with explosions.
Yeah, and seeing those Madcaps, I get a little worried. My thought is that I should be able to keep them somewhat safe. I mean, Madcaps are a little unpredictable in their motion, so I still go ahead and deploy the Hex Hunters down at the bottom with the thought that they'll run into the forest and be stealth and safe. Of course, I put Bayal in the back with her sprays and to keep her safe for that Shadow Bind.
So, clock flips over to me, and I start pointing out where my Caskimps are going to go. So, there's a big deal in terms of the order in which you get these guys going and deploy them, because if you roll a 6, they blow up on your stuff. I realized I was in blast range with the Trapperkin, who is going to be replaced by this proxy because I couldn't find the trapdoor marker. So she had to go first, then we can get the Caskimp going. It's going to go right up the gut, and it's going to go one extra inch. So it's d6 plus 5 on a roll of 6. It blows up. Then we get the Malady Man unit just running up there after giving Desperate Pace to the unit of Nayslayers. And then we're going to activate the Nayslayers. They're going to run up. And now we're talking about threat ranges, because a big deal for them is basically not getting caught out by things like sprays. If I have them fall down so they're untargetable by ranged attacks, he can target me with sprays at things behind them and catch them underneath, and since they're not targeted, they are fine to get hit by the spray. So we're setting them back. They're going up the board, but they're not like shaking the world with how fast they're going. So here I'm doing they immediately fall down and gain feign death, but because he's within 3 inches of the Madcaps, Stumbling Drunk prevents him from being knocked down. Here I'm learning about how you should always keep the grunts to the sides of the madcap, because it's when you begin your advance, you get the speed bonus from it. Because I didn't begin the advance within 2 inches of the 2 grunts, I moved significantly slower. And then we're going to pop out some explosive cask imps. I think I get 2 of them here, or is it just 1?
You get, I thought you got like 3.
Yeah, it might be. The rich get richer.
Oh no, it's just
2. 2, yep. And we put them in the rough terrain. They'll be used later. Here I'm taking a little bit of a gimme. Last time we talked about cleaner play. And here we declared, yeah, I'll give you your first turn apparition, but after that, you if you mess it up or miss it, you miss it. So they apparate. Then we activate the Clockatrice. It runs up. Then we activate the Grave Ghoul, and he's going to go ahead and bonk the cask imp, giving him a soul. Or corpse. Yep. Yeah, one of them. Mind, body, soul. It's all the same. Harken back to those Denny 2 days. Then the Malady Man's going to go. He's going to give Desperate Pace to my unit of Hollowmen. And then we're going to go ahead and figure our life out in the center of the board, where I've done an amazing job at jamming myself up. Some things could have been better thought out, but here I am activating the Skin and Moans, doing the Bushwhack Animus to give it Pathfinder. It tramples up the 9 and then attacks the second Cask Imp, giving another corpse to the Grave Ghoul and putting it up 9 inches. Just pretty cool. I think we're all pretty happy with that.
So happy. Just so happy with that.
So there I'm measuring what in the scientific community we refer to as don't go near that zone. And that is the total threat range of the reindeer.
The raptors?
Yes, the raptors. Yes.
Reindeer?
They look
raptors.
They look like reindeer.
Look, they're raptors.
Yeah, they look like they're delivering Santa, not pain. So then we advance the Hollowmen. Benefiting from the Desperate Pace, they can run 12. And then we activate Zevanna Agha. She's going to go ahead and move up her 6, cast Windstorm, do the extended control range, and put Respawn on the top Clockatrice. Then we're going to advance the bottom Clockatrice so that it can effectively mess with anything that's coming over on that flank, but still benefit from being behind the forest. So that should prevent any charges or anything like that in case I mess something up with a unit of Hex Hunters. Then we're just moving up the Crabbits to help shield guard some stuff more effectively. And Baron Tonguelick goes, jumps over to the left flank, and then I pass clock to you.
Yeah, those high speed models and units are kind of terrifying. Looking into this, I just stop and think for a minute, because anywhere I move up, I'm going to be in range of that Clockatrice. Looking at the Clockatrice on the blue zone, if I move any of my Raptors up, he'll be within charge and paralyzing spray range. So rather than dealing with that, I kind of shove that aside and go to the bottom flank, where I'm fairly confident in what I'm going to do. When I first deployed them, the plan was to have them move up, get into the forest, and just hold the zone. Realizing that I have 1, 2, maybe more Cask Imps coming in, I get a little bit nervous and decide to take half the unit in to hold for this next turn, and maybe try and shoot off a few of them with the Hex Bolts.
Yeah, I totally forgot about those.
That they have a ranged magic attack?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking here. We put down that 9-inch stick. That is the walk and attack range for the Hound. So I want to try and keep at least half the unit in Bayal outside of that range while I move the other half up to take care of some cast imps and maybe take some pot shots at the Clockatrice. So I go ahead. They have a 6-inch movement, 6-inch shot, so I think I can get 3 of them on there, on that one cast imp. That does leave another cast imp within definite range of doing some damage. But with the Incubi there, I'm fairly confident that they'll still be able to hold that zone. So I move the other 3 out, keeping Bayal pretty far out wide, hopefully safe, as I take 3 shots in there. I managed to hit the second one, take it out, and I believe that's their activation there. Now I have to deal with what I was trying to put away, and now that the easy side is done, I move on to dealing with what I have at the top. And what I have at the top is a whole unit of Hollowmen and a Clockatrice. In addition, I have some Nayslayers. The Nayslayers threaten 15 inches on the charge, I believe, right?
Yeah, with Boundless and Desperate Pace and just their native threat.
Absolutely terrifying. The thing Typhon does not want to see is a unit of Nayslayers chunking his armor down to half.
Yeah, well, I thought Typhon was pretty okay with armor piercing and grievous wounds.
Yeah, well, no. The 2 main defense with excessive healing and arm 18 don't do so hot with that. That combination of armor piercing and grievous is just ugly, just brutal. So rather than try and position him, I put down a proxy for Lylyth. The plan is to move her up, take a few shots up at the Clockatrice, and then kill a Hollowman to proc Blood Boon. So I measured it out. She can move forward 9 and then repo back 5. Now this puts me in a tough spot because with how long the threat ranges you have, I can't really move up the field a lot. If I move up the field, I'm losing some major pieces. If I move the Raptors up, I'm going to lose some Raptors to sprays or Hollowman shots. I can't move Lylyth up the field. Being a huge base, she's a huge target. So I kind of think about, what am I willing to sacrifice? What am I willing to give up? And the answer to that was not a lot, actually. I put a lot of high-value models on that top of the field, and losing even 1 or 2 of them can be pretty devastating. So what I end up doing is thinking if I can position Lylyth in a way to then try and move the Raptors and Craelix and my Ice Witches within her 3-inch wind wall. So I go ahead, move up. I believe you were just kindly reminding me that Old Witch has wind wall up, which is -5 to range.
Yeah.
Attacks? Yeah. So that was me paying 1 for a snipe from the bolt thrower, and I ended up having to move her up even more to get everything within her now 11-inch range. Because mine +4 from snipe, -1 or -5 from wind wall or wind ravager.
Windstorm.
Windstorm, that's what it is.
It's a storm.
So here I am taking some shots at the Clockatrice. I think I miss 1 or maybe 2 of them, and I end up taking out a Hollowman. And with Hollowman gone, I now put up through Blood Boon, wind wall. And so yes, so she has a rate of fire 3, so I can shoot at 3 different things. I think I took 1 shot into that Hollowman and then 2 shots into the Clockatrice. And I believe I was boosting damage at that point. And I think, yeah, it was off 6, and I rolled a 2, 2, and a 2. This is great.
And it happened. Yeah, you shot once at the Hollowman, missed, shot again at the Hollowman to trigger the Blood Boon, and then got him, and then took another shot into the Clockatrice to boost damage.
Yep. So after a short repo back, I now start to position the Raptors, I believe. Or, oh no, actually, no, sorry. This is me measuring the Sorceress and Hellion. The thought is, can I get the Sorceress and Hellion up over that objective, and what would that look like? since I can't do that, I'm still thinking about where do I want to place the Hellion. And so I move the Bolt Thrower up first because he has the low speed. The Raptors, being speed 9, are just free to go wherever they see fit. So I move him first, make sure he's in the wind wall, and now I start moving the Raptors around. This first one's pretty far out, so he kind of goes on a long trip around, again, making sure that he is within 3. And the other Raptors kind of move up and go around, knocking over an Ice Witch, and are positioned within 3. I believe it's at this point that I realized the Clockatrice has a magical spray, which there I am looking it up, as a magical spray, which completely ignores Lylyth's wind wall. So I become a little frustrated, and I do kind of give into the frustrated mode, and rather than putting that aside and thinking, how do I deal with the situation in front of me, I just started kind of placing models, pretty recklessly. For example, Typhon gets moved all the way up right behind the objective, obstruction in the middle, making it really hard for him to do much. He is safe, which is pretty good, but can't really do a whole lot behind that. I do move the Sorceress and Hellion up. It's speed 8 and then repo 3. So I move her up 8. I then cast the AoE within 8 inches, no shooting, and then she repos up to the left of the objective. Azrael hops into cover. You don't have a lot of range, but I just, he has flight. I want to hold him back anyway. I don't want to commit Azrael just now. Hopefully countering the Clockatrice if it goes in. And I start moving some shepherds and making sure that they get up into a position. There I am moving the Gobber chef. Now the Gobber chef goal is to support, if I have to move my beast out of Lylyth's tiny 10-inch control range, the plan would be to have the shepherds there to still force the beasts, and have the Gobber chef there to eat the shepherd if it runs too hot on fury. And this is me, tasty shepherds. I move the Ice Witches up and just trying. Initially, the plan was to get them in within the wind wall range, but I kind of get frustrated and don't even care and put them outside the wind wall range because of that magical spray. And then Craelix walks around and just goes right up front there. Looking back, I probably should have just ran Craelix far out wide to avoid the spray, but that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So, definitely seeing the effect of playing Warmachine all day. I think at this point it's 10:30 at night.
Yeah, about that.
So both of us are sub 40 minutes on turn 2.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. Wow.
And here I am apparating because, like we said before, there will be no mercy. So I want to make sure they come up. I'm like, oh man, I am so close to, just plinking the Sorceress and Hellion with the Hollowman, because that Sorceress and Hellion is right by where I want to assault everything, and I can't assault if she's just sticking around being a big old jerk. So apparate directly towards her, and now we're measuring things out. We're trying to figure out, okay, well, what's possible here? What's the defense and armor of that big juicy target behind the house? While you're doing that and enthralling me with all sorts of stories about how it's super defense and regen arm billions or something.
Yeah.
Except 13, regen isn't 18. Up on it at this point, I don't think.
It's not, because I ran it. It's not sure. Again, not necessary. No need to do that, but I did it.
Yeah. I did it. So here we're checking an 11-inch threat range just on the Clockatrice. It's like, oh, can I just charge it in and eat the Hellion? Well, maybe, but is that really going to be enough work? And then I see that nice juicy diamond shape for the assault spray there, starting with Craelix, going on the
Yep.
bolt thrower, then it spreads out on the 2 moose.
Raptors. Raptors.
Yeah,
The Raptors, James.
yeah. So I've got 2 meese and a Ice Witch in the back there. All right, cool. So some quick rule review, just to see what Holden gets for his unit, and it is repo, which is always fun. Now we're going to start activating the Malady Man and the Crazy Monkey. Give Desperate Pace to the Hollowman. I think that is a really cool interaction there, because you basically extend the threat range of those guns by another 2 inches. So with Apparate, the gun's base range movement, you are looking at 19 inches of threat range. So we get quite a few of them in, and here I'm like, oh man, I forgot to account for the Desperate Pace. Mike is like, I know we said no mercy, but here's some mercy. I'm like, thanks, boo. So we move them up.
I think exactly your words were, you started measuring them, and you're like, I measured this. Why isn't it in range? And then,
yeah. Yep, that's what happened. That's the truth. So I get most of them in. I think there's 1 guy out of range. And so we go ahead and start shooting in pods of 3. Pods of 3 are going to hit on 6s with an effective POW 14. So hits and some damage. Second round hits, some damage. Leaves it on 1 box. Hollow Holden to the rescue with his range 14 rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And wonderful Rat 7. So 7's hit. And do the sniper point of damage.
Yeah, you were about to roll damage. And you're like, no, wait.
Yeah, so that's dice off 5. This could go terribly wrong at a moment's notice. We'll just take the auto point. Thank you. Yeah, this is actually the first time I've really used him as an attachment. And I'm actually pretty excited about him. I can't wait to start, kind of exploring Hollow Men, because for a long time they were sort of poo-pooed. Now it's contemplating, okay, what can I do here? For a while, I was going to use the Hellion as the charge target and get in on the Typhon. So I'd get the two beasts on the Typhon, which looking back might have been the better play. But now we're going to activate the Cast Imp. And he's just going to wind up right at the corner of that house. And that may... I think you kill him later. I'm not sure.
We may never know.
Yeah, the mysteries of the future. So here I am trying to divine the future. You can tell because my clock is bleeding and no models are moving. And we're going to assault the Clockatrice in.
Yep. Right at that perfect triangle of all 5 of my key models just sitting right there.
It's beautiful.
What is the speed of the Clockatrice now with flight, and
So
how does it get?
It's speed 6. You put boundless charge on it for
Right.
so that's an extra 2 inches of movement on the charge. So then you're at 8 plus 3, that's 11 inches, and 8 inches with the spray. That's a 19-inch threat range on a paralyzing spray.
A POW 12 on the spray?
Yeah, POW 12 magic weapons, and the other cool thing is that with the witch, you can just reroll misses. So before we do any of that...
Why is that a thing?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Before we do any of that, we activate the Skin and Moans, move him up, get the Crabbits up. This allows me to unlock Old Witch, to pop Feat, and start spending them big bucks on the rerolls. And rerolls on 2 assault sprays, or how whatever. There's not a ton of work that's going to happen this turn, right? But it's kind of a defensive feat because it still gives me the extended control range for windstorm as well. And here I am seeing if I could get a Curse of Shadows out. Spoilers, I can't. So we're going to have to settle with casting the Boundless Charge and the Windstorm. And camping the rest since I'm so far forward. So now I've got my nice big bubble of -5 range. And then we do the Clockatrice Assault. Again, another effect of the feat is I get to reroll misses. So Rat 6 on rerolled misses is very, very nice. We're still going to boost on some key models. I really want Craelix to die. I think he does a tremendous amount of work with Blight Spasm.
Especially into those Hollowmen. But I think you did space him out properly anyway, even if he was alive, because Blight Spasm is all within 1 inch. So I think you did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, for some reason I always think it's like an AoE 3. Or no, it's within 1 inch of the model, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so it's
that's an effective AoE
better,
3.
Yeah, better than an AoE 3.
Yeah. So we hit a few of the models. I think I missed the Nephilim Bolt Thrower. Mm-hmm. And
an Ice Witch.
And an Ice Witch, yeah. So here we are just doing the damage on the... Oh, I guess I got the Ice Witch.
Oh, the Raptor.
Yeah.
No, you hit all of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So
you got it.
Craelix, 2 Raptors, and an Ice Witch for an Assault Spray. On 3 Fury, I really should have reserved 1 Fury for the Animus. But now we know. So here we've got the bottom Clockatrice charging in on Typhon. And seeing what kind of work can be done here. So we miss. And then get the reroll. Then we hit. And now I'm like, oh man, I forgot my spray. And just rolling the rest of the initials.
Yeah, I think you only get Typhon with that spray anyway.
Yeah. So, again, another kind of point of slop there. The spray is pretty important with the clocks. You should always remember it. It's paralysis. I mean, it gets him done at def 5. I missed one of the attacks. And here I'm buying the rest of them. So, if I had remembered it, I wouldn't have missed one. I think I would have gotten a bit more damage on him. I forgot what I left him on, but it wasn't super high. And I know at one point, every little bit of damage helps later on. Then from there, we're going ahead and moving up the Malady Man and the monkey. And we're just putting the monkey in the forest. I like kind of just putting him out there as something you have to deal with. Like if you don't charge into range with him, he's going to countercharge you. And here we're getting some of the Nayslayers in to remove the Hex Hunters, clear the zone, and feel good about life. This would be an amazing play if I had gone second and I was in charge of scoring. Instead, I'm just sort of putting some Nayslayers out there for the sake of putting them out there. And you're replacing each of the casualties with Incubi, which I totally forgot about.
Yep.
And then repoing them back. Repoing one back, the other more towards the middle. The reason I'm doing this is to try to at least mitigate some of the counterattack there.
Yeah, I noticed you did that with the Hollowmen too, how you repo some of them kind of forward aggressively and then repo some back as well. I thought that's a really cool strategy.
Yeah, you're going to lose some, but you can lose some in a way that it's annoying to get rid of them, so you wind up self-jamming. So the cast imps move, or the madcaps move up and make 3 cast imps, which is pretty cool. The rich get even richer. Placing the cast imps all within 3 inches. So from there, just moving the grave ghoul up. I like the grave ghoul with the hollow men because you can get corpses from the hollow men and then kill things with the hollow men and then get hollow men back. It's a fun little efficiency you can get out of that. So I get them right behind the wall there. Can mess with some dice math. So, and moving the Crabbit up just to get into shield guard range of the madcaps.
Yep. So, lost quite a bit that round. That spray really kind of hurt me. Definitely could have played that better, but moving forward, as always, I have a Clockatrice in my face, or 2 rather, in my face. I have to deal with that, and that's kind of my main focus right now, is removing the Clockatrices and moving forward from there. My initial thought was that if I can get rid of the Clockatrice as tying up Typhon, he should be in range with Battle Host to walk around the obstruction and be able to get his full 8 attacks onto the skin and bones. But Clockatrices are not exactly easy to deal with. My first plan is I move the Raptors. So if I can get 3 of the Raptors surrounding the Clockatrice, my hope is that he can't stutter away and get out of their 1-inch reach. Because having large bases, it makes it a lot easier to try and pin that model in. Now, only having 3 of them makes it a lot harder. Had I had the full unit, I think it wouldn't have been as big of an issue. But I go ahead and that Incubi that was once Craelix just runs over to the edge of the blue zone to contest. That frees up the Raptors to move and try and get some charge vectors. The issue with these charge vectors is that in order to have a charge lane, there has to be a pretty big gap between the Clockatrice and the Raptors. As you can see, they're pretty much exactly at 1 inch. Which, of course, then if he stutters even slightly, will pull him right out of that 1 inch. I go ahead and move the other 2. One trying to get as far back as possible, and the other going right up base to base with him. Right there. So I do a quick impact attack on him, and then get some charge attacks off. Now, the Raptors are Weapon Master, or not their impact attacks, but their charge attacks are Weapon Master. POW 10 with 4 dice charges should be doing 6 damage on average, so probably not going to kill it, especially with the stutter, but hopefully weaken it, maybe allow the bolt thrower to finish it off, or Lylyth herself finish it off. Miss one of the attacks, which is unfortunate. Even being Rat 7 into Def 13, or sorry, rather Mat 7 with Annyssa into Def 13 means, well, actually no, I don't think I did miss an attack because it was a boosted.
Yeah, no,
attack,
you didn't miss any of them.
Okay, well, except for the last one, because I hit 2 and then trigger a stutter, which I believe you just stutter out of range of that far one then.
Yeah, the 1 inch.
So I only get
range.
the 2. I don't miss one. He stutters out of the 3rd. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So, I believe the Clockatrice is at just 2/3 health, maybe almost half health, but still fully functional within, 6 inches of my caster, which is not ideal. So now I start thinking about it, to say the least, not ideal. I start thinking about my options. I could just activate Typhon and, just chomp the Clockatrice with that, but he would then stutter out of the range. So my second plan then is to charge in with Azrael and maybe some Incubi to try and pin it from stuttering away that way. I charge in with Azrael first, or I move the Incubi before, and now I charge him with Azrael, And I believe that's a cast imp there too, blocking the stutter as well on the corner of the obstruction. So I hit and crit, but it's only crit slam with the ranged throw. Damage rolls don't go quite as I was hoping, so he doesn't end up, or well, he does trigger 2 stutters, I believe. So the first stutter goes off, and I flip it back to you. 2-inch reach is really helpful here. So still within range of Azrael. But what I realize now is that with this next stutter, you should be able to completely stutter over the Incubi and the cast imp.
Yeah. Yeah, being nestled into the kind of cleavage there is helpful.
And I had planned for 1 stutter, and I totally forgot that you could stutter closer to with the second stutter than jump over any obstacles. Unfortunately, though, I don't proc the second stutter and just leave it sitting on a few boxes. Still engaging Typhon. So now I start thinking, what other options do I have? My initial thought is maybe the Bolt Thrower, maybe another Incubi or a Hex Hunter. But for right now, I know that Annyssa, having her Poison Bow not being affected by the construct, Anyssa's not going to do it. So I try and move Annyssa out of the way, take out some Hollow Men in the process. I think it's the next move. Yeah, she has range 12 gun as well. But with Windstorm, that brings it down to a range 7. So still being speed 9, range 7 allows me to get, I want to say, 1 shot into the Hollow Men, 1 shot into the Skin and Bones. Or no, sorry, this is the Lylyth. I'm activating Lylyth. Same deal though. I have to pay 1 for Snipe because of the Windstorm, and then
you feed on this turn as well, right?
I do, yes. So I feat and take out a Hollow Man to try and proc Blood Boon again, and try and stationary the Skin and Bones. My thought was I want to station the Skin and Bones first before procking Blood Boon. And so I go take some shots, and under cover, the Skin and Bones goes to def, what now?
17. So
17.
Yep, and I take your first shot to the Crabbit.
That's right. I believe I missed the other 2 with a 4 and something else. Yeah, a 2, a 1, and a 1. So Skin and Bones is not stationary.
He's just so dodgy.
And I foolishly do not repo with Lylyth, even though I have a Clockatrice within 6 inches of my caster. But now that I've feeded, I activate Annyssa and move up to try and take out some Hollow Men. And I believe I do so, yeah. Annyssa is really good, really supports the Raptors. Having Rate of Fire 2 on her bow is nice, especially for clearing, low arm infantry like the Hollow Men.
I mean, even higher arm, right? Don't you have poison on the...
That's right, yeah. POW 12. Oh, I've never established Prey. That was one thing that we forgot. I didn't establish Prey at the beginning. So they're only POW 10 shots, but that's that. So I take out a few Hollow Men, and again, don't repo her either. At this point, I think I'm under 17 minutes, and I'm just trying to hold on to any clock advantage that I have. So again, making some mistakes and not playing as well. Like, I could have repoed Annyssa out of the way, which would have let a clear shot for the Bolt Thrower onto the Clockatrice. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, so the Bolt Thrower ends up needing to just move straight across and kind of aim for that tiny gap between Azrael and the Clockatrice there. Now, being in melee, that brings it up to def 17 against my rat 5, so it makes things a little tough.
Just casual.
Oh, that's measuring again because now he's within 18 inches of the Windstorm, so he has to pay 1 for Snipe, which isn't a big deal. Being Fury 3, I'm only going to get 1 shot anyway, so boost hit, boost damage, and cast Snipe. Roll a 6, which is not what I needed, and so finally I have to give up and put Typhon into the Clockatrice. So I take a spray, maybe trying to hit a Nayslayer and a Cast Imp, and roll the spray attacks. I believe I boost a hit on the Clockatrice.
Sure do.
They do not benefit from the target in melee defense bonus because the attack is originating within melee range.
Well,
so
also it's a spray.
That's right. That also is also a big deal.
So many factors.
Yep. I managed to hit the damage pretty well. Not enough to kill it. Leave it on one box, I believe, right?
Yep.
Flip it over to you, and you stutter away.
Yep.
Oh, before you stutter, the attacks is technically simultaneous, so I roll damage on the other two. It is stationary, though, and within range of his second initial spray.
So it might be at this point you're saying, hey, you know, as a Clockatrice player, you should probably remember to clock back after stuttering.
Yes. So the clock is still ticking away on James's turn, unfortunately. Again, a side effect of playing 6 games of Warmachine in one day.
Cumulatively.
And so, still on James's clock, I finish up the bottom half of the table, moving the Hex Hunters up, charging that darn monkey with 2 Hex Hunters, and the third going onto the Nayslayer there. So just checking the mat, they are mat 7, which is really nice. Hit the Nayslayer, take it out, and when I kill it, procs Battle Wizard. So I take a shot then at the other Nayslayer, getting 2 for 1.
What a deal!
The first charge attack on the above the monkey on the top of the screen there, or slightly above the monkey, misses. The one below it does hit. I immediately go to roll my Battle Wizard, but that bottom Hex Hunter is well within 3 inches of the forest, so it doesn't have line of sight on any enemy targets.
And here we remember to get the clock back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the clock goes back to me. So here I am doing the auto repair on the Clockatrice in the top zone. And at this point I'm feeling a little tilted. I feel like I've lost quite a bit of time. So it's 6 minutes to 12 minutes at this point, and I'm just getting the cast imps in there to blow some stuff up. Luckily, I rolled what I needed to roll there to get them into position, and now that opens up both Azrael and Typhon. And
the Nayslayers too, yeah.
Yeah. So then I just move the cast imps in. It's a couple of POW 14s. It's pretty nice.
Really spiked the damage roll too. Like, took a big chunk of damage out of Azrael.
Yeah. Yeah, both of those are pretty cool to watch happen. I need to roll a 5 on this one for it to work, and I do. It's always nice when you have a 1 out of 6 chance of making something happen, and then it happens for you. Definitely helped me out.
Yeah, how would that have worked if you didn't roll a 5, right?
I would have just
he had been blocking some charge lanes.
Yeah, I mean you can impact attack him or something like that. It's
that
not
makes sense.
Yeah. In the back, he's a def 10. I'm not too concerned, especially since they're range 2 reach on the Nayslayers who'd be going in.
Right.
So with 3 minutes and 45 seconds left, I'm like, hey, no, it's a great time to stop and think right now. Now we're gonna go ahead and try to... I'm checking the range on the Nayslayers to see if I actually need to activate the Malady Man first. The answer is no. I charge them in there. I put 2 on the Typhon and 1 on Azrael. Is it Azrael or Zuriel? Azrael, yeah. I'm a professional Warmachine player.
Zuriel has legs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the ninja swords. So we get rid of Typhon, do a little damage to Azrael, and then move the monkey up with the crazy monkey and the crazy monkey ability, which gives me an additional die to hit. We still miss the Def 14 because I need a 9 on that one. So boost a hit with the Hound, who is mat 6. So again, I need a 9. Miss by boost, miss. And then at this point, I'm at 1:20 and just like, well, okay, I'm pretty screwed here. And I take some desperation shots at Lylyth, because at this point I kind of feel like I'm out of win conditions. I think if I had been thinking a bit clearer, there's an unlock that could have occurred with the Skin and Moans unlocking the Clockatrice, who could then get on to Lylyth, who I think is naked right now.
Yeah, completely camping, no fury. Yeah, not smart on my end.
And then I clock out. And that is all she wrote on that one.
Yeah. So, we talked about the fact that we were both exhausted and making some poor decisions, especially at the end. Leaving my caster on 0 fury, not repoing her, forgetting to flip the clock back, which is a responsibility not just of you. It was also my error too. We both gotta be aware of the clock better with that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things with clock is that at the end of the day, you are responsible for passing it over to your opponent. When you lose clock, it's not anyone's fault but your own. You have to tap it back. No one should be messing with your clock for you. It indicates that it is your turn. You are doing something. If someone doesn't pass the clock back to you, but looks at you expectantly or something like that, if you notice the clock hasn't been passed back to you, you should always remind somebody. If you don't notice, you can always feel bad from the outside sense of, oh man, that really sucks for you. But from a guilt perspective, it's not your responsibility to ensure that they passed clock over when they said you can continue doing what you need to do.
Well, yeah, I believe it actually, and I agree with you, kind of what you were saying. In the rules, it does say that it is both players, responsibility to manage clock and to ensure that the clock is on the right turn, which, of course, I benefited from that mistake, but I felt like that was unfair, Yeah,
it's unfair, but unintentional. And again, at the end of the day, it flipped over to me to do an out of activation thing. It's my job to flip it back. Occasionally, you'll find players that will flip it to you and flip it back for you, like if you're doing tough rolls or something like that, just out of expediency. But again, for the most part, while maybe both players' responsibilities, if you've got a lot of out of activation abilities, you should be on it.
Speaking of things I would do differently, just really quick, looking back at the way I deployed, I had initially in my head really loved the idea of the new tactician theme benefit and wanted to kind of abuse the fact that that Lylyth can move through the Raptors. I thought that was really a cool thing until I realized that Raptors are really not screening units. When you lose 1 or 2 Raptors, it's a pretty big deal on an 18-point unit. So if I was able to do it again, I would have put the Raptors down at the bottom circle zone with the Hex Hunters to really kind of threaten that zone and hold onto that zone. Plus, they're speed 9. They can make it across the field if they need to come back and support the blue circle zone or the middle of the field, or potentially threat an assassination. So, looking back, definitely placed the Raptors wrong. Putting Typhon right behind the obstruction was kind of not a smart move. Should have kept him a little bit further back, put up excessive healing. But other than that, I was really happy with the list, and I really wanted to give it a second go.
Yeah, I was actually pretty impressed with it. I think that better screening, I think you can really watch those Raptors sing.
They're great units. They're a good unit, but they're not a screening unit by any means.
But they're very effective at taking care of problems from a range. So, with that, I think this concludes another relatively successful episode of Desperate Pace.
A very successful episode of Desperate Pace.
Well, as always, be sure to like and subscribe. I haven't been saying that, and people say that's mandatory for YouTube videos.
It's true.
Yeah, so, hit that bell and subscribe. I'm James.
And I'm Mike.
This was Desperate Pace. Thanks for watching.
Bye.